Hey everyone, and welcome back to our city Lakewood. In today's episode, we're going to be doing a renovation on the farming and forestry industries. They've been this way since about episode 6, and not many changes since then other than adding the fishing industry at the far end. Now functionally, they still do work quite well. Traffic is controlled with one-way roads going in loops through the raw materials and processing areas, and everything is still flowing smoothly. However, they just don't look very good, and I think we can do something about that to make them both look a little bit better. One of the things that we're going to be changing with the forestry industry is definitely adding some more trees. It's pretty sparse around the outside edge and even within the industry itself. And because of that, these tree plantations that we have, they kind of stick out like sore thumbs. I think they look really strange to have these random squares of really high density trees along the road like that. So having more trees around the outside area to kind of blend everything together, I think would go a long way to making it look a lot better. And we're also going to be changing the layout a little bit. So I did mention at the beginning that functionally the layout, there's really nothing wrong with it. It's running quite smoothly. There's a slowdown every once in a while when a truck delivers or exports something from a factory or a warehouse. But I think in order to make it look like I don't want to say real, but a more realistic sawmill forestry area, that we need to adjust the layout a little bit. We'll have the factories a little bit closer to the highway exit and the cargo train terminal, and then have the forested area kind of in the far corner over here, and just make it look like an actual forest. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is we are going to be removing all of these buildings and almost start from scratch. So long as we don't destroy or bulldoze the forestry main building, we can keep the current forestry industry at level 5 and not have to level everything up again. Not that there's anything wrong with that, starting from scratch. It really wouldn't take very long to level it back up, but if we don't have to, we might as well not do that. So I will delete everything. You can see we did plant a bunch of trees originally below where we're putting our plantations here. So we'll kind of have something similar to that, but just spread out across the entire area. And then hopefully those square blocks of trees will look a little bit better and not stand out quite so much. I did empty out the waste transfer facility down at the bottom here just so that we could delete it. I'll take out these power lines as well. And then we will turn off the forestry main building. We could have left it on. I don't think it really makes much of a difference, but we'll just turn it off for now. I'll also turn off the forestry train terminal. And looks like we're going to have to redo the power lines here for the emergency broadcast system. So I will connect that up to the farming industry across the way just temporarily for now. And then looks like we have our Firewatch tower, so let's just get rid of that. And then we're looking pretty good to redo the layout for our forestry industry here. Even though we're going to be changing the road layout for the forestry industry, it's still going to be acting on the same principle as the current road layout. Basically what there's going to be is 2 different loops within the industry itself. There's going to be one loop for the raw resource extractor buildings and another loop for the processing buildings. These 2 loops are going to be interconnected so that trucks can come and go between the 2 loops as needed, but still be able to return to the building that they originated from. I'm going to move the train terminal and the main building out of our way for now. Actually, it looks like I need to expand the district a little bit. So we'll go all the way out to the corner and the edge of the tile, down to the highway at the bottom, and then towards the water up at the top. Looks like this algae farm is complaining about electricity since we removed the forestry industry, so I'll turn that off for now. And then as for entrances and exits to the forestry industry, really not going to change too much. We have the highway entrance right here. It branches off with one branch going towards the left, the forestry industry, and one branch towards the right, which is the farming and I guess the fishing industry up at the far side over here. And then as for exits, we have the highway here going into the tunnel, off to this cloverleaf interchange, and then towards the highway itself. And then of course we have the train, which is traffic in and out of the forestry industry. I'm going to remove that extra branch and just shorten this up a little bit for now. Originally, I had planned all of those episodes ago, like I said, episode 6, maybe having a different branch of the main train line going up and around the back end of the city here. But I don't think that's really going to happen anymore. So we'll just stick with one train track coming towards the forestry industry since that's really all we need. As for the road layout, this is still going to be the main highway exit from the forestry industry. So using the small industry road, I'm going to just draw another lane right here like so. Now, as for the direction of the industry road, I'm going to just stick with the normal road for now and then worry about the direction of the roads afterwards once we have all of our buildings in place. This area here is going to be the processing or the factories for the forestry industry, and we have a couple different options for us. We have the sawmill, the biomass pellet plant, the engineered wood plant, and the pulp mill. Now these are a little bit different than the unique factories that we did last episode in that they are not unique and that we can have multiple of these factories if we want. You just got to keep in mind that you have to have enough raw resources to be able to supply to these factories and also enough buyers to be able to sell your goods to for these factories. So you might find if you put in too many factories that either they're complaining about not enough raw resources or not enough buyers for their products. But you can do some math if you want. In the info view, it tells you what their production rate is. So you can try and match the production rate of your extractor buildings to the production rate of your processor buildings to try and get a little bit of a balance. But usually I just throw in a couple and see if they complain or not, and then go from there. So we'll put in probably 2 of each, and then that should be more than enough for what we want to do. We're going to put some branching roads off of this main exit road just down towards the train track. And then we're going to start placing in our factories. We're also going to place a couple of these storage, different storage buildings that we have available to us. So they're pretty much like warehouses in that they store raw resources for us to be able to use for our forestry industry. So we have 2 different log yards and a sawdust storage and wood chip storage. On this first branch right here, we are going to have 2 of these sawdust storages as well as the sawmill. So put the sawmill in first and then have 2 sawdust storages below that like this. And we can draw our final road at the back there like this. There we go. I'm going to turn off these buildings as we go. Everybody's going to be complaining about not enough electricity, water, resources, etc. Until we get everything kind of sorted out. Now beside that, we're going to have some of these bigger factories. We'll have the biomass pellet plant. And then we're also going to put in the pulp mill beside that one as well. Go. And then on the other side of the main exit road, we're going to almost replicate at least anyway what we have. We're going to replicate the pellet plant and the pulp mill. So just take a measurement of the road here. It goes up by 600 and then across by 300 it looks like. Go. And then on the outside edge over here, let's throw in what else do we have available to us. Let's do another sawmill. And then instead of the sawdust pile or sawdust storage, pardon me, we'll put in a wood chip storage. And last but not least, we will put in 2 of the engineered wood plants just along the edge right here. I'll space it out by 1 block instead of directly side by side. We'll just put a little bit of a gap between them. And that's looking pretty good for our process side of the forestry industry. I think I'm pretty happy with that. From here, we're going to work on the road that goes around the outside edge that enters the forestry industry from the highway. So we'll start over here. I want to make sure that I have enough room for some of the other buildings that I'd like to put along the road that goes right here. Those other buildings are going to be the, let's see where they are in here, the large log yards. I'm going to have them snug up against these other roads. So I'm going to put one in here temporarily just for a guide for myself to be able to put in the road here. So I'm going to have this one coming up to the top here. I'm going to move that large log yard just a little bit up like this. And we're going to have a couple more along the road right here. Put a little bit of a gap between them like so. I think that'll look pretty good. Take off this extra little bit of the exit road, and then we're going to smooth out this corner here. So, nope, I'm going to make sure I turn these other ones off as well. And then from here, we're going to come up along the top edge like so, and then I'm going to come straight off of the highway road right here. So I'm just going to run that up to where it is right now. And I'm also going to smooth out these corners a little bit. Okay, so that's pretty much everything in terms of warehouse / storage and processor buildings. We still need to put in our extractor buildings though, and the area for our extractor buildings is going to be up at the top over here. So let's move our forestry train terminal out of the way, and then our forestry main building, we'll just slide back to over here again. As for the road network for our extractor buildings, I'm going to use the dirt road. So instead of using the small industry road that we've been using already, I'm going to just switch to the 2-lane gravel road. It doesn't really make much sense for me for them to pave the road up toward they're going to be logging their trees. Instead, it's just going to be a gravel road going through the forest up towards the different tree plantations that we're going to be putting in. So we'll have one of them come off of the road right here, and I'm going to try and do it at a 90-degree angle, just because unfortunately it puts in these crosswalks, and having it at a strange angle, the crosswalks look really weird. So I'm going to try and make the crosswalks look sort of normal, at least while I can. And then I'm going to come off of this part right here. Unfortunately, having it along the curve where it is, can't really fix the crosswalks too much. We just kind of have to do the best of the worst, and I think that's kind of the best of our options available to us. Now from here, the road network is going to be relatively not square as much as I can. I'm going to switch to the freeform road tool, and then just kind of draw some roads coming off from there, and try and go through the area with no real plan in mind. So we'll just loop through. I'm going to turn on the guideline now so that I can connect back up to the other road that we drew over at the bottom there. Oop, that's not what I wanted to do. So, and then from here, we're also going to have some branching roads come off of that as well. Okay, I think that looks pretty cool. From here, we're going to put in our tree plantations. So we'll go back to the forestry tab. We're going to pick the large tree plantations. These sapling fields, they're not really filled in quite as much as these other plantations. So I don't think they're going to quite work with what we want to do. But we'll place in a bunch of these large tree plantations if we can along the outside areas over here. Fortunately, with the curved roads, our options are kind of limited to exactly where we can put them, but we can also put in some of these smaller ones if we need to. I'm also trying to spread them out a little bit, so I don't want to have all of the tree plantations along the same area. That would just cause quite a bit of traffic. So instead, we're going to try and each branch is pretty much going to have its own tree plantation. Let's switch off to some of these medium-sized ones. Okay, and then of course everything's already complaining about water. So we will turn all of that off again. should be okay. Oh, missed one. Get that one turned off as well. And now with these tree plantations, as you can see, it's sort of random for what trees that they are showing, but you can also change that. So if you go into the info view for each of these buildings, you have an appearance option, and we're going to change these to beech. Those are the types of trees that we've been putting all over the city as it is right now. So we're going to change these to beech. You know what? Actually, no, I'm going to change... let's change some of these inside ones to something different. Let's do oak. Let's do alder. Alder in the middle. And then maybe we'll leave it as oak along the outside edge. Oak here. Back to beech trees, beech, beech. And we'll try and blend in some of the different types of trees through the area. See if we can make it a little bit interesting looking. A couple other buildings that I'd like to add in here still. We have now our production buildings and our raw resource extraction buildings. Our main entry building here, I'm going to just move a little bit and make a slight adjustment. So instead of it being along the main road, we're just going to have another branch coming off of that main road for the main entry building. Like so. And then we're also from here, I'm going to put in a fire department, as well as some entertainment for the workers that are going to be here. So we'll put in a basketball court. Put in a parking lot too. I guess people are going to have to come here to work. So we'll put in a parking lot. Just again, turn everything off before we get the utilities sorted out. Make sure that's all off. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now, to complete the road network, we also need to have a loop back to the front entrance. So, from this last intersection before it goes out towards the highway, we're going to put in another road coming off of that. And looping back towards the main entryway over there. It looks like our trains need to make sure we remember to connect the train network back up. It's a pretty sharp corner here, actually. How are we going to do this? Actually, that doesn't look too bad. I was going to try and do some fancy S-type train track, but that's not terrible as it is right now. I think it's going to be covered in trees anyway, so nobody's really going to know. So it looks like the landscaping here can use a little bit of work. Again, probably going to be covered in trees, so I'm not going to spend too much time trying to fix it up. Go, not terrible. And that's pretty much all of the buildings. Just take a quick look. We got all of our extractors, some storage. We've got all of our processors down here at the bottom. Let's take a quick minute, and looks like we're shipping stuff out. What's still on? We can turn this off. This can go off. Everything should be off. Let's take a look at the road direction. So right now, the only directional roads we have are the roads coming in from the highway and then out towards the highway as well. So we want to make sure that we make some adjustments to that. So this main road going around the outside edge is going to be one way. So it's going to follow the highway in and then loop around. Something else is still on. Some of these trucks are still coming out. I think it's remnants of the buildings that we had on before. So we have one main loop going around the forestry industry, and unfortunately there are no directional gravel roads. So instead what we're going to have to do is we are going to have to upgrade just this first little bit going into the gravel road area. So we'll have the entry here. Do we want the entry there? No, we don't. We want the exit here. We're going to have the exit here and the entry here. And that way, the raw resource trucks coming from our extractor buildings will exit out here and drive past these storage yards. We don't want to have the exit over here because then they'd have to loop all the way around, and instead they're going to just come in from over here and drive right by them, and including the processing buildings at the bottom here if needed. As for the processing area, I don't think I'm going to mess with these branched roads too much. We have the main exit road going through here. Let's just complete the loop. And then other than that, I think having the trucks being able to come and go as they need. Some of them are going to be exiting out towards the highway. Other ones are going to be going towards the forestry train terminal. So once we have everything turned on, we'll see how the flow of traffic is, but it might not be too bad to just leave it as it is. As for utilities, I got everything hooked up off camera. It's just the same as every other time putting in utilities. So I've got water pipes along the roads connecting everything together. And then I connected the electricity to the broadcast antenna that we have over here just to get everything set up. And then now it's just a matter of turning everything back on, seeing how everything goes, and then planting a lot of trees. Unfortunately, without mods, there's no tree painting brush that I can use to just paint a large area in a short amount of time. So it's going to have to be me individually clicking all of the trees to be able to get them in place. I'm thinking the best way for me to do that is a time lapse. So I will get started on that. Everything's come together quite nicely. The tree plantations are sort of hidden for the most part. If you do look close enough, you can see where they are. Obviously they have the red buildings, but the trees themselves are in almost perfect lines, so they don't quite match up with the surrounding area. So if you look close enough, you can tell where they are. But really it's not too bad, so I think that turned out pretty good. In the back of my mind, while I was doing the tree planting, I had the worry that there was going to be a forest fire, so it's pretty much inevitable at this point that this is going to catch on fire. So I do have some of these fire watch towers. I put in 3 through the area, more than what's needed, but I think it looks kind of cool having the 3 towers kind of watching over the area. So what we'll also do while we're right here, we do have now available to us some higher capacity fire helicopter depots. I'm not sure when those came out. I think it was one of the most recent updates or DLCs, so these were added relatively recently. I'm going to put 2. It gives us 11 helicopters. It's literally right beside the water right here. If there's going to be a fire in the area here, it's going to spread really quick. So I want to be able to have as many helicopters available to us as possible, as quickly as possible, so that it hopefully doesn't spread through the entire area, but I'm not counting on that being able to be saved right away. Some other buildings that we can add to the area that I forgot about. We'll scroll to the beginning of the menu here. We do have these forestry worker barracks and the forestry maintenance buildings. The barracks will add 5% efficiency to the area, and then the maintenance building adds 5% storage capacity. So not necessary to have. Your forestry industry will still function without these buildings. It just makes it a little bit better. So we'll put the maintenance buildings at the end of our process area of the forestry industry over here. And I'm going to try and put in some of these worker barracks in the forest over here. But I was trying to place them earlier, and there's not too many spots because of the curvy roads. There's not too many spots that they're going to fit in, which is okay. We don't have to have these in, like I was saying. So we can try and spread them out. It looks okay. It kind of makes a gap in the trees a little bit, but that's not too bad. So we'll try and fit in some of these if we can. one right there. That's what? That's 4 through the area. I don't think there's going to be room to place another one along any of these other roads. Looks like this one's just out of reach of our utilities, so I'll just hook that back up. That should be good. Okay, everything should be set. So that should be our forestry industry renovation complete. And like I said, I'm just waiting for that forest fire to go through the area. We'll keep an eye on it as we go through the farming industry next. Unlike the forestry industry, the farming industry is a little bit restrictive on where it can go. Unfortunately, we have to stick to the area where we have the fertile land, and we can't create our own fertile land. So it has to be right here, but luckily it's quite a big area, so we don't really have to worry too much about it. We're going to do the same thing that we did with the forestry industry. I'm just going to turn the main building off and delete everything else. As long as we don't delete the main building, we will keep our level 5 farming industry and not have to start from scratch. So again, just like the forestry industry, I didn't really like how it looked. It kind of had these weird rectangular blocks just kind of poking out of the main road. So we're going to adjust the layout a little bit and get everything fixed up. And I'd also like to split out the fishing industry. So a lot of the truck traffic going through the area here is related to the fishing industry and not really the farming industry. So if we take a look at some of the buildings here, these ones each have 13 trucks, freight trucks that they can use. Obviously, they're not all in use right now. These ones have 19 with 15 in use for that one. This one's got 1 in use out of 11. 25 trucks for this one. These ones, the seaweed farms and the algae farms, 37 trucks, 37 potential trucks. That is absolutely crazy. So there's a ton of truck traffic for the fishing industry and not necessarily all for the farming industry. So we're going to split that off just a little bit, and so we can hopefully alleviate some of the traffic going through our farming industry here. But in order to do that, we're going to just get rid of most of these roads through the area here. Okay, I think our farming industry, the area is still pretty big. We'll just expand it anyway, just to make sure we don't have any issues. That should be lots like that. Turn this off. Move this out of the way just for now. I think that's about everything. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to remove this bottom road. And this road that's here for the fishing industry, we're also going to take that out. Oh, actually, that's not a good idea right now. I was just thinking about moving that road, but then I realized that the waste transfer facility here needs to be emptied out. So I'm going to turn that back on, and hopefully that'll empty out. Our trucks still should be able to leave the area, but they can't come back in. That's not a problem. Okay, that's already emptied. So we'll move that out of the way, and then we can delete that road. Okay, crisis averted. Here we go. For the bottom road here, we're going to have an industry road. We're just going to move it a little bit closer to the train tracks, and we're going to try and run it parallel to the train tracks as well. So it's going to come down like this. Then it will curve up to the fishing industry up at the top there. And then we're going to come off of the road. So this is the Y road that I showed earlier that goes, the left goes towards the forestry industry, right goes towards the farming industry. And then we're going to have another road coming off of that. Something like this, I think will work. Just put a nice curve in it. Like so. I think that'll work well. And then for the farming industry, so this will be the road to the fishing industry, and then the road that was here before, already for the farming industry, will continue to be for the farming industry. And we'll have another road that runs beside the fishing industry road for the farming industry. . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . So we'll try as best we can to line this up a little bit. And then from here, we will do another loop, kind of an inner loop that runs beside the fishing industry loop for the farming industry instead, though. I want to have it parallel to the road over here, though, so I'm just going to draw a temporary line right here. And then we're going to connect back up to this road that's already here as well. So essentially what we have is we now have a split road that goes one towards the fishing industry and then one towards the farming industry in the middle here. Now, just like the forestry industry, our farming industry is going to be using gravel roads to connect all of the extractor buildings to the main road. They're going to be going into the area here in the middle of the loop around the outside edge. And we have a couple different options available to us for different extractor buildings. We have small, medium, and large crop fields, fruit fields, and animal pastures. Well, actually, there's only 2 animal pastures, small and large, no medium for whatever reason. So basically, there's our forest fire. Holy, I knew that was going to happen. Despite having the helicopters available to us, it looks like the forest fire is spreading like crazy. I'm on 3 speed right now. I'll just slow it down. It looks like our helicopters are doing as best they can, but it's too quick for them to be able to handle any of that. So that's too bad. It looks like it's inevitable. Like I was saying, it was going to happen. So it doesn't look like any of the buildings are burning down, but I would be surprised if any of the trees survived the forest fire for us to see. So it shouldn't affect production at all. Funny enough as it is, the trees are going to get burned and they're going to kind of end up like this, but eventually they're going to recover. So that's too bad. But hey, it is what it is. All right, where were we? Farming industry. Basically, the extractor buildings are going to be going to the inner part of the loop here, and it's going to be connected by gravel roads, and we have lots of options for us in terms of different types of extractor buildings. I'm going to be doing that myself and just coming back to everybody here in just a minute and showing the final product. The reason for that being, it's kind of like a grid, I would say grid-like, but not quite like zoning a residential area. I tend to switch back and forth quite a bit between the farming industry and the road tool, and it's a little bit tedious. So I think the best thing to do is to just talk about what I'm going to do and then show the final product afterwards. So I'll see everybody back here in just a minute. I think I managed to get one of just about every type of building in the area. And just like the forestry industry, you can select the appearance of these extractor buildings. So before we were able to pick the type of tree, and this time we're able to pick the type of crop. So our regular crop fields can have corn, cotton, potatoes, wheat, and a greenhouse. So I've got one of everything except for the greenhouse. And the fruit fields, we can have apples, oranges, pears, and a greenhouse. Got one of everything, including a greenhouse on the right side over here. And as for animal pastures, there are 4 different types of animals. So I have 4 large animal pastures, one for each of the cows, highland cows, pigs, and sheep. In addition to the extractor buildings, I put in some processor buildings as well. We do have a cattle shed, so each of the 4 animal pastures has a cattle shed right beside it. And I also put in some of the auxiliary buildings for the farming industry. So we have these farm maintenance buildings as well as the farm worker barracks. So I put those just around the outside edge to fill in some of the gaps between where we have our fields and the edge of the road, the perimeter road that goes around the farming industry. So that covers pretty much all of our extractor buildings and even some of the processor buildings. There's a couple more that I'm going to add just at the top over here, and they are going to be some milking parlors and some flour mills. I decided to put 4 of each kind of processor building, so we have 4 flour mills on the right and then 4 milking parlors on the left. As for the road layout, there is a looping road that goes around the outside edge, and then just this road that goes down the middle. It doesn't connect to the main farming perimeter road, but it does have access to the 2 milking parlors that are in the center there. And that pretty much covers it, I think, for our farming industry. We have all of our extractor buildings in the middle, a couple processing buildings, these cattle sheds, but then most of our processing buildings are on the right side. I'm not going to be adding any of the storage buildings. I think they cause way too much traffic, and we have quite a number of extractor buildings in the middle here, so I don't think it's going to be worth it for us to have some storage just to cause extra traffic. We should be able to supply our processing buildings no problem with the amount of extractor buildings that we have. I've been wanting to tackle this renovation for quite some time now, and I'm pretty happy with how everything turned out. Getting rid of the seemingly random extractor building rectangles poking out of the road was something that had been bugging me. I don't think we are any more or less efficient than before, but the area certainly looks a lot better. There are a couple other small changes I'd like to make in the area, but unrelated to the forestry and farming industries, so I'll save it for another video. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Don't hesitate to leave a like, dislike, or comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already for some more Cities Skylines content in the future, and I'll see everyone in the next episode.